So we are on day 2, 5th April. So yeah, we'll kickstart our session. So let me just share my screen. Let me know if my screen is visible and my voice is audible.
Yes, I currently is clear. Thank you.
That's great. Fine. So let me just jump into particular slides where we want to just introduce about UiPath or RPA. Fine. So this is our agenda today to just understand about introduction to RPA. So what is RPA? What are the different tools in the market? So why RPA? How do we select a process for the automations? So what are the benefits of RPA, scope of RPA? And we will try to summarize with a deep life cycle discussion. Right. So let's try to understand here how the companies used to work earlier. So there is to be something called a centralized process. So let's say that I have something, a company in UK. So there is to be a people working in UK itself. So to just speed up their process, so they have introduced a concept called BPOs and ITOs. So there where a piece of work was given to some other companies or entities so that they can complete their work in a faster way. Right. So then came the global standard process. Let's say that there are companies in UK and US. Still, we can sit here in India and we can just support the companies' operating models. Right. So still, to just speed up the process, we have introduced something called as scripting languages. And now we are in a phase of automating the processes using enterprise RPAs. So what will be the future? So it will be integrated with the cognitive or else like AI technologies, right? So let's basically try to understand what is the RPA, right? So RPA stands for robotic process automation. So let's try to break down this particular key terms. What is this robot? So robot is nothing but it will try to mimic the human actions. So whatever a person will try to do, it will try to do the same thing. So here the robot is not a mechanical device. Let me just mute other people. Yeah, I think yeah. So it's not a mechanical device. It's something like a piece of software or else a piece of code which will be utilized, right? So what is the process? So let's say that I want to send email to some XYZ person. So what I'll do? Initially, I'll launch the browser, launch the application, provide the authentication details, click on compose mail, provide all the details so that I can send the mail to some XYZ person, right? So here you are trying to follow some meaningful steps or a sequential steps, which is performed end to end to achieve a task or complete a task is what we call as a process. So what is automation here? So automation is nothing but we are trying to remove the human intervention or the supervision. Earlier, if there is something a human is trying to do the work, or else like human is trying to supervise the work, we are trying to eliminate those things using something called as automation. So combining all these three keywords, we can simply frame our basic RPA definition as like you're trying to replace a human workforce with a digital workforce or a virtual workforce. So in simple words, we can say RPA is going to replace the human workforce with a digital workforce or a virtual workforce. So you might be having a doubt, Kiran, like, so what is a prerequisite for learning this particular RPA, right? So here you won't have any sort of prerequisites. So the thing is that like these RPA technologies are low-code technologies. So where you will see a minimal sort of code, where you can see the power of tool here being replacing the code here. But still you can utilize the code where you can utilize VB or C# for your sort of coding and all. But 90% of your tasks can be achieved without the coding. But the thing is that you should be having a developer mindset. though you are not from something called as technical background or else you don't have a coding knowledge, still you can definitely be working with this RPA domain and all. The only thing is that you should have a developer mindset. That is a major prerequisite I can say here. Because I also from EC background, but I don't know any sort of coding and all. But from last 5 years, I've been working on this particular UiPath tool itself, where I've utilized minimal sort of coding. So 10% of coding in my experience I've utilized. It purely depends upon what sort of projects you are trying to utilize or what sort of projects you're trying to go. Okay, fine. So here you might be again saying like what this RPA can do. So it can automate a web-based application, it can automate a Java-based application, it can automate a mainframe-based application, an SAP-based application. It can interact with email-based applications, database. It can automate a PDF, all these things, right? So again, you might be asking me a doubt. Kiran, you are saying that it can automate SAP, it can automate web-based. Do I need to learn SAP now? Do I need to learn something called .NET now? Do I need to write how I can frame some SQL queries and all? Of course, no. So here we are only trying to replace the process being carried out on any sort of application. I'm trying to reiterate. So this is very much important. We are only trying to replace the process being carried out on any sort of application. If we are trying to replace applications, then yes, of course, I need to learn all these technologies. Our concern is only the process that is being carried out on any sort of application. So that is the major thing we need to keep in mind. And we are not trying to provide any enhancements or improvements to the solution. We are just trying to replace the process manually earlier done with the tool capabilities here. So that is what we need to consider. Okay. So what are the different tools available in the market? So we have like 50 plus tools in the market. So how this RPA came into existence? So RPA came into existence in IT as a practice. What are the different practices we have in IT? So we have, let's say like development as a practice. So let's say that I want to do a development of an application. I can do it in Java. I can do it in .NET. I can do it in Python. I can do it in JavaScript or Ruby. Like you have different sort of opportunities or tools. So you will try to select something where you will try to optimize your code or do your code in a faster way, have more capabilities and all, right? In the similar way, RPA came into existence as a practice. So we do have different tools in the market like Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, UiPath, Cofax, Nice, OpenSpan, Power Automate, which were existing in the market. We have like 20 plus tools in the market. So why only UiPath? So UiPath is something a tool which is trying to provide the capabilities to the customers in a very fast manner as well as in a very supportive way. It's just trying to be a customer leader and all here. So one of the biggest reason why everybody goes with UiPath is something. Here, the licenses we need to procure in enterprise. Nothing but you need to buy the licenses if you want to develop something in UiPath. So when you are trying to do a purchase of something, you will try to go with something, a product where it will try to give you more profit on it, right? So that is why everybody goes with UiPath rather than multiple tools that was available in the market. So simple example. So why everybody is trying to utilize Geo rather than other services like Vodafone or Airtel and all. Yes, people are utilizing, but with a very less percentage when compared to the Geo and all, because Geo provides you services in terms of providing different platform accesses, very fast speed of your net and all these things, right? The same thing happens here also. Right? So that is one thing. And you might be having other doubt like Kiran, you are saying that now your path is leading the market. I have learned your path. So after some time, some other tool may come into existence. So what is the thing? So let's take a small example again here. So we might be using social networking messages like let's say WhatsApp, right? So initially it may take you 2 to 3 weeks to understand what is WhatsApp, like how you can send some messages, videos, or images. and how to keep some statuses, all these things like how to use some disappearing messages and all these features inside UiPath, right? So inside WhatsApp. Okay. So after maybe like 6 months, I have installed an application called FB Messenger or as like Instagram Messenger. So how much time it takes? Roughly 2 to 3 days. Because already you know the concept of sharing content or else trying to utilize the features. It only takes 2 to 3 days. So what has become familiarity is something like the concept remains same, but the user interface changes as well as the naming terminology changes. Here we call it as status, there we call it as reels and all, right? So something similar, you know the concept, but it is something different naming terminology. The same thing happens here. If you want to automate a process, the process doesn't change here. Only the tool which we are trying to select changes here. It might be your path, automation anywhere, power automate. It remains the same here. The concept remains the same here. Okay. So in which domains it can be utilized? You just name the domain, it can be definitely be utilized. It can be utilized in manufacturing services, IT, customer services, banking, insurance, healthcare, supply management. So there are lots of domains where it can be utilized, or else there are lots of industries where it can be utilized. The same thing, like let's take some example of supply chain management. So every time it has some repetitive process like inventory management, so demand and supply planning, so invoice and contract management, work order management, returns processing, freight management, right? So all these things happens in the supply chain management. You need to every time do the same process, whether we have some inventory like goods we have, whether we are having proper supply planning and all. So once you do something where you will have some invoices which needs to be processed in terms of POs and all, and also the work order management should be there. And sometimes you will have returns where you need to process those things. The freight management is something what we call as a delivery management, right? So all these things happens very frequently in the supply chain management companies, and all, right? So it's the best opportunity that can be leveraged in any sort of, right? So any doubts as of now? Let's try to jump into the notes.
There is no much questions, Tiger, you
Oh,
can proceed.
there are no doubts. Okay. You're there, you're clapping. That's great. Still it's loading for me. That's great. Okay, fine. So what process should I automate and all? So before just going with this particular what process should I automate, so we will try to understand some key terminologies, so which can help us a better way of. So let's say that we have a company where it will try to process a loan applications. Okay, so we know something the loan applications which can happen in banking domain and all, right? So you apply for a loan, what happens? And they'll try to process and they'll come back saying that hey, Kiran, your application has been approved or rejected. So that is what the final outcome of loan applications are, right? So let's say that I want to establish a BPO related to loan applications, and the volume is something around like 500 applications on a daily basis. Okay, so which we can call it as transactions, and time taken for each transaction, nothing but average handling time. So what we call it's something called average handling time is 10 minutes. Okay, so 10 minutes is nothing but the time taken for processing each application is what we call as average handling time. So how many persons are required? Any answers? So I have 500 applications. So each application takes 10 minutes. So let's try to break down here. So each 1 hour, a person can complete how many applications? 6 applications. So basically a person will work for 8 hours. So basically, a person will work for 8 hours. So he or she can complete around 48 applications. So roughly, let's say like 50 applications, right? So how many people are required basically here to process 500 applications? Around like 10 people are
10
required.
people.
Exactly. So 10 people are required, right? So in a similar way, so let's try to understand. So if you are getting 1,000 applications, so how many people are required? 20 people are required, right? So it fully depends upon how much applications you are trying to process, as well as what is your time taken to complete each transaction, right? In a similar way, let's say that now I want to understand a concept called how many bots are required to complete a process. So how many bots are required to complete a process? So let's take the same example of this particular loan application process. So earlier it is processed by persons. So now the same volume of 500 applications, it needs to be processed by bot. So the average handling time to complete each transaction will be around like 2 minutes. Let's assume it's not that every 10 minutes task will be completed in 2 minutes, but let's try to assume that it can be completed in 2 minutes. So in 1 hour, how many applications a bot can do? Around like 30 applications. So in 8 hours, how many a bot can do? Around like 250 or 240, right? So how many bots are required now
Two
to
robots.
complete these 500 applications? How many?
Two.
Two bots, exactly. Right. So now within 4 hours, let's say that as per my business requirement, I need to complete the same task within 4 hours. So how many bots are required?
4 bots.
4 bots are required. Exactly. So let's say that as per my business requirement, I can complete the same task within 24 hours. How many bots are required? Only one bot is required, right? Because in 16 or 17 hours, the bot can process all the applications, right? So it purely depends on the business requirement as well as the volume and the average handling time. How many bots are required here? So each application here, we can call it as a transaction. Each time to complete a transaction is what we call as average handling time. And we can understand here the ROI also. Let's try to understand here something why we need to implement a bot here, or else why we should not implement RPA in a process. So let's say that for each person, you are paying around like 10 lakhs on a yearly basis. Okay. So around like you are investing 1 crore on your business. Excuse me. Right? You're trying to invest around 1 crore on your business. But here, let's say that I'm trying to utilize only 2 bots, and each bot will cost me around like 20 lakhs. Okay. So you're trying to invest around like 40 lakhs. So here, if you can see, we have around like 60 lakh savings. If we are trying to implement the same bot and you're trying to run the things rather than running it in manual way, right? So now let's understand here, instead of paying 10 lakhs, I'm paying only 1 lakh per year for each person. You are only investing 10 lakhs basically, right? But here, if you are trying to invest the same thing, you're you're costing it around like 30 lakhs more than your normal process, right? So there is no purpose of implementing a bot. So we are just trying to provide you a high level analysis only, but there are a lot of calculations that goes in terms of development efforts, soft savings, hard savings, and also lots of things happens. But at a very high level, we are just trying to understand, is there any savings if you are trying to implement that in a manual way rather than going with the automated way. Okay. So this is what you need to understand for basic technology things going forward, right? So let's try to jump into our slides. Any doubts as of now, please do let us know. Hope we are clear. Yeah, that's great. So what process should I automate? Right. So this is something like the limitations we have before we try to jump into conclusions before considering a
So
process
sorry,
for the automation.
sorry to disturb.
Yes,
Hello. So here you are just calculating based on the applications, right?
yes, exactly. The volume, what
Okay,
we
sure.
call as transaction window.
One second. Okay,
Yes,
fine.
Karthikeya.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, so we are just calculating based on the volume, right?
Exactly.
Which is showed on the screen. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
That's my question.
So that's what I'm saying. There are
Uh,
lots of factors also, but here to
Sir,
just
here,
have a high level understanding, we just run some calculations here based on a particular volume.
Okay.
see here, how can I
Thanks.
assume that no 1 hour is 30 application and 8 hours is 240 application? Then how we can assume that is 4 bot will run?
Sorry.
No, is here assuming 8 hours 240 application is there, and four
Yes.
hours 144 application is here. Means how can I assume is 4 bot will what will run?
So that is what we call something as a business requirements here. So here I was just saying like how we are assuming these things, right? So it's based on the average handling time. So it's not that every 10 minutes task can be completed in 2 minutes and all. So it can also take 5 minutes also. Let's say that it's taking 5 minutes. In 1 hour, how many applications you can complete? 60 per 5. It's something around like so for every 10 minutes you can complete two applications, right? So for every 10 minutes, you can complete two applications. So you can complete around like 12 applications in 8 hours. So you can complete 8 into 12 around like 100 applications. So you require here how many bots again? 5 bots are required. So it purely depends upon average handling time and the number of applications as well as the business requirement. The business is nothing but your company wants to complete the task within 4 hours. Or it's like the company wants to complete the same work within 1 hour, and all, right? It purely depends here. So what are the limitations or drawbacks of UiPath? So which we are going to discuss now. Yes. So let's try to understand what are the limitations what we have here in terms of automating a process as well, right? So the process should be highly manual and repetitive process. Right. So what is this highly manual and repetitive? Which is nothing but having high transaction volume processes and highly frequently process which runs on a daily basis or weekly. So which involves lots of manual work or work prone to human error. So you should be having at least minimum 1,000 transactions or higher transactions which happens on a daily basis. So let's say that here instead of 500 applications, you are getting only 50 applications manually also. So instead of 500 applications, you're getting only 50 applications. In how much time you can complete? Maximum within one person can be utilized or two persons who are working on multiple processes can achieve the same sort of work within like less time, right? Within less time, right? The same thing we need to understand here. If you having more applications, so then we are trying to utilize RPA, right? So process with readable standard electronic input types. So we have data in three ways: structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So what is it? Structured, semi-structured, and unstructured. So let's say that so we have data in terms of videos, images, or scanned documents. So that is what we call as unstructured data. Since here something a bot is being processed instead of a human, so bot only follows the human instructions, right? So here the bot cannot analyze that there is a data in a video, or else there is a data in a voice, or else there is a data in something called as scan documents, which is something an image, or else there is a data in a handwritten documents. So that is what we call as an unstructured data or a semi-structured data. So here the bot can process only data if it is there in terms of Excel, a Word, email, XML, PPTs, or PDFs. So which will help us or the bot to process the data for completing a process. So let's say that for the same example of loan approval process, you have your loan application written in some web-based application. So you will try to go to some web-based application, you will try to enter all the details. So how the bot can process this particular data? So here the bot can download all the applications. When you download, your data will be there in some sort of Excel or PDF or a Word document, but it won't be there in the form of video, or else it won't be there in the form of something called as a voice message and all, right? It will be there in some structured data with something called a first name, last name, what is the loan amount he's trying to apply, what is his personal PAN card number, Aadhaar card number, phone number, email address, and all these things. It is what we call as structured data. Yeah. Okay. So bot can process only structured data rather than semi-structured or unstructured data. And the process with system or application changes. Okay. So what is this process change? Let's say that earlier for applying a particular loan and all, the process that is being utilized is you need to enter the PAN card details to complete your loan application process. But now the process has been updated that instead of PAN card, you need to utilize Aadhaar card. So I need to change the code, test the code, and again release into the production. So again, a developer needs to come into picture. After 2 weeks, the process been updated now. Instead of Aadhaar card, you need to utilize the combination of both PAN card and Aadhaar card. So again, the developer needs to come into picture. And he need to do the coding so that he need to complete his development as well as testing and release into the production. Right. So if there is a very frequent changes in the process, there is a frequent change in your code where it is not a correct thing for your particular automation center. So if there is a frequent changes in the process, it's not a best suit for your automations. And also, if there is a very frequent changes in your applications. So when we are talking about applications, the applications are categorized into business applications as well as commercial based applications. If you're working in companies, we will try to interact with something called as business applications, where if there is some changes in the applications, you can have a in-hand information that this is the functionality that is being changed, or as this is something a UI design, it is getting changed in this particular release and all, right? But if you're utilizing something called commercial based application, let's take an example of IRCTC application, which is a travel booking portal, right? So you cannot estimate why the changes happens in the applications and all. So once you see the changes only, you'll come to know that, hey, this is something, a change happened in the application. So instead of the login button that was there in the rightmost position, it was shifted to the leftmost position. Your bot will obviously fail, right? So again, you need to fix that particular code. And if there is a frequent changes in the applications too, so again, a developer needs to come into picture, do the development, do the testing, release into the production, right? So it is something again a pain point for your automation to maintain. So that's the reason why very frequent changes in the process as well as in the system is not a best suit. Okay. So let's talk something about a rule-based process. So something it should be having a rule, right? So to instruct a particular bot, it should be having a clear vision of what the process should happen. So without a particular rule, I cannot approve this particular loan. Like if his CIBIL score is 700 or less than 500 or greater than 800, I need to approve the loans and all. Without a clear CIBIL score validation, I cannot approve the loan. It is something like a rule I need to follow. So that is what we need to understand here in terms of RPA. So there should be a clear cut rule based process. So that is how and where I will try to utilize. And we have already talked about high volumes and automation savings. So if it is only 10 applications on daily basis, only 2 hours a person can complete. So only we will try to go with processes where it is having very high volumes and at least minimum of 2 FTE savings. FTEs are nothing but full-time employees. If we are trying to replace some sort of efforts here in something called, we call it as hard savings, then we can try to achieve some sort of benefit rather than not having a benefit. Mature and stable processes. So what is mature and stable process? So we can only try to implement automations on a stable processes where we know the operational cost and all. So operational cost involves something, uh, how many persons are required, what softwares are required, what sort of infrastructure is required. Right. So based on all these calculations, we can try to estimate. So what is the savings we are going to. So at a very high level, each thing have a limitation. So these were some sort of limitations at a very high level, where we will try to consider whether the process can be automated. Okay. Are we clear as of now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are good. So let's try to understand the benefits at a very level language here. Let me start my platform. So what are the benefits here? So let's say that I'll go to a company, I'll work for only 8 hours, but here the board will process 25/7. I'll go to company, I'll ask for salary. Here the board doesn't ask for any sort of salary and all. I'll go to the company, I'll ask for leaves and all. Here the board will not ask for any sort of leaves and all. Let's say that instead of getting 500 applications on daily basis, you're getting 5,000 applications. So how many people are required? Another 90 people are required to process your applications. So what you'll do, you'll talk to your manager. The manager will talk to higher officials. They'll take a decision. They'll try to hire. They'll try to train, and they'll try to deploy in the process. Right. So meanwhile, will the customer stay with me? Of course, no. He or she will try to go with another company where the process of your application will be in a faster way. So now let's say that instead of getting 500 applications on a daily basis, you're getting only 50 applications. Can I remove these 9 persons who are sitting idle in the company? Of course, no. You have something called as labor policies, which you need to adhere. So that's the reason why you cannot remove the persons who are sitting idle in the company. Right. But now, if something that is being processed by the bot, you are trying to process something in virtual machines rather than in the physical machines and all. So the configuration of virtual machines happens mostly within couple of hours and all, where you can scale up your particular bots or scale down your particular bots based on your particular volume. If there is an increase in volume, you can increase your virtual machines. If there is a decrease in volume, you can decrease your particular virtual machines and all. Scaling up or scaling down based on the business requirement of your transactions can easily be processed here in utilization of RPA mode and all. So let's say that today I apply a loan in ABC Bank. It's been rejected. Tomorrow you will get a call from XYZ Bank. It happens very much in India, right? Okay. So how can this happen? Uh, your data might be stolen by some person and he or she might sell this data to some other entities. So that is why you will get a lot of calls on daily basis, right? But here the bot cannot understand that I can steal some data, I can sell it to some person so that I can buy the licenses and all, right? Here the bot doesn't know that. So here the data is very much secured. So that is what we require here in the present era, where the privacy is a very important factor here, right? The data is very much secure. And here, let's say that earlier your task is being processed in 10 minutes. Now you can complete the same task within 5 minutes. Obviously, your average handling time is reduced. If your average handling time is reduced, your productivity is increased. If your productivity is increased, nothing but the customer satisfaction is increased. If your customer satisfaction is increased, automatically your business is going to boom, right? So that is why every company is trying to utilize this particular RPA in their day-to-day operational processes and all. So let's say that today ABC Bank implements, obviously XYZ Bank is also trying to implement. So how many banks we have? How many domains we have? So lots of domains, lots of processes, lots of opportunity for RPA developers, right? So we are trying to hear on a daily basis or a weekly basis in every news channel or as like every articles and all. So AI is going to replace humans and all. This is what RPA is capable of replacing humans. Not every human, right? So there are some sort of things where human also can be smartly working than the bots and all, right? So, but where uh, if there is some sort of intelligence work is being utilized, so if that particular person can be utilized in other sort of processes where they can speed up the things and all, or else there can be some sort of benefit to the companies. So this is something like a benefits what we can try to see. And this is very much important in understanding the team structure in a particular company and all. So we have a project manager who will be responsible for setting up and delivering the programs related to the RPA. And we have infrastructure engineer and the service support engineers who will try to support or handle the installations and troubleshooting. So let's say that I'm trying to work on a process related to SAP and interact with the database. So am I responsible for installing SAP or database in my systems and all? Of course, no. I'll raise a request and the service support engineers or infrastructure engineers will set up the environment for me so that I can work on it. So who is the solution architect? So solution architect is a person who will try to design how your solution should be looking like. What are the components you will try to utilize? So let's say that I want to construct a house. I'll go to an architect where he will try to design how your house will be looking and all. So these are the floors and this is where the parking comes. This is where your hall looks like and all these things, right? The same thing happens here with the architect where he will try to design how your solution should be looking. So if you are trying to process invoices, whether you will try to go with PDF extraction and utilize some reject expressions, or else you need to utilize the document understanding, or else you need to utilize some out of box capabilities in terms of ML skills and all. So what suits your particular automation? So solution architect is a person who will design how your solution will be looking like. So here comes the actual developer, where he will try to design and develop the bots, right? And who is this business analyst, right? So business analyst is a person who acts as a bridge between the client and the development team. So client is nothing but, let's say that I'm trying to automate processes for ABC bank, or else let's say like Citibank. So Citibank is the client for me. So they have given me 5 processes. Let's say we have loan approval process, we have KYC process. So in the loan approval process, I have a doubt that if its CIBIL score is less than 700 or it's like less than 750. So what is the validation I need to do? So what I'll do, I cannot directly interact with the client every time. I need to maybe like he is working on a different time zone, I am working on a different time zone, or he or she, like the client is not available, he is on vacation. So you might be having a delay in your particular development, right? So business analyst is a person who acts as a bridge where he or she is having a very good understanding on the client practices involved. So whatever a process is being automated, the first point of contact will be your business analyst or the SME, nothing but a subject matter expert, where you will try to get the first hand information, right? And who is the supervisor? Here, the supervisor is nothing but he is an administrator who will try to run your bots based on your business requirements. Whether you want to run your bot on a daily basis, whether you want to run your bot on a weekly basis, or else you want to run the bot on morning 9 o'clock or evening 9 o'clock, or else you want to run on different time zones. All these things are done by the administrator or the supervisor. Okay, your responsibility is to develop the bots, and supervisor or the administrator responsibility is to run the bots. Business analyst is to provide you all the information related to the process. Architect is a person who will try to help you out how your design should be looking like. and infrastructure or service support engineers is the persons who will try to set up the environment for you. And the project manager or the change manager comes with the same roles and responsibilities where they'll try to set up the team, deliver the projects related to the clients. Right. So here, the major thing which we are trying to target here is basically on the RPA developer role, and that is where we are trying to kickstart a particular course going forward. Okay. Right. So this is very interesting thing which we need to understand about a robotic development lifecycle. Right. So we have a manual process, and our main final goal is to convert that into a robotic workforce or a virtual workforce. So what are the different stages we have here? Right. So these were the different stages we have. The first stage is nothing but the process management or the discovery phase, where we will try to assess whether the process can be automated or not. So I'll show you the documents also. We'll have a very high level walkthrough what these things we'll try to discuss. So once we know that the process can be automated, so how you can try to evaluate? We have something called as initial process analysis or initial feasibility checklist, where we will try to assess whether the process can be automated or not. Who are the key stakeholders? Here, the project manager as well as the business analyst is a very key stakeholders. Based on the time availability, even the developers also might be there in this particular discovery phases too. So once we know that, hey, the process can be automated, we'll try to go with the second phase, which we call as define phase. So define phase is the phase where we'll try to document every keystroke level information of the process with the functionality as well as the process level information, and we will try to document that in documents called as BRD, which we call as business requirement documents, or else some people might even call it as PDD, like process definition documents. And who is the who is the key stakeholder here? The business analyst, or else an SME is the key stakeholder here. Before starting the development, it is a best practice that we will try to send a document for the sign off. So why we need to have a sign off? So let's say that, so I'm trying to automate a loan approval process here. So earlier, I know that the CIBIL score should be less than 700, it's not approved. Greater than 700, it's approved. Right. So I have automated this process and I have been released that into production. Now the client comes up with the statement that it's not 700, it is 750. I cannot fight with the client stating that in the recordings or else like in the earlier calls, discovery calls, you said it's 700, right? It's the blame we need to take, right? So to avoid all these discrepancies and all, we will try to document every keystroke level information in the PDD document. What is the process we are going to automate? So we will try to take a sign off that, hey, this is what the process you have asked for. This is what you are trying to automate. So once they provide a sign off, then we'll try to go with the development. Right. So design phase is the phase where the architect and the developer will try to design how your solution should be looking like. So we have something called as SDDs being prepared in this particular design phase, which is called as solution design. So here comes the actual picture of developer, where he will try to consider the inputs of PDD as well as SDD, and he or she will start doing the developments. And before releasing it to the test, and also after the development, he will try to release that in the testing environment. If there are any sort of issues, again, he or she will try to fix that in the build phase. And after moving that into the next environment, we call it as UAT, which is called as user acceptance test, which is an exact replica of your production environment. So here the end user comes into picture. So till now, everything is done inside your particular team itself. You are building, your team is trying to test, everything is done inside your particular uh, environment itself. So it is where the end client will come into picture for testing. And before moving into the production, he or she will try to test every cases in the unit. Okay. So please share the number. Fine. Any other things? Fine. We'll see. Right. So and finally, we'll try to deploy that in the production, right? So these were the phases we try to see. So and also after deploying it in the production, after UAT happens, the testing is happening fine from the end user, and we'll try to deploy that in the production. So once we try to deploy in the production, there are two scenarios. Either you're going to maintain the bot, or else some support team is going to maintain the bot. If there is some support team is trying to maintain the bot, we try to provide something called as hypercare for 3 or 4 weeks. It depends upon organization to organization. Hypercare is nothing but you're trying to provide the warranty to the product, right? So for 3 to 4 weeks, you'll be the initial L1 support. If there are some sort of issues that happens with the production, you will be responsible for fixing the bots. After 3 to 4 weeks, you will try to provide all the inputs in terms of functional as well as the programmatical things what you have developed, and you will try to deliver that to the support team where they will be the L1 support and you will try to shadow things. So that is what we call as hyperkit, right? So these were the different phases we can foresee in terms of converting your manual process into your particular final robotic or virtual workforce. So Kiran, you might be asking that, hey Kiran, so if I'm a developer having 4 years of experience, or even I'm a fresher, or else even I'm having 8 years of experience, what are the different phases I'll be involved in? It purely depends upon organization to organization again. So let's say that I have started my career earlier in Tech Mahindra or else in Optum. So there I've been there in the initial discovery calls. I've been interacting with the client, getting the requirements, doing the PDDs, doing the STDs, doing the development, doing the testing. Everything happens by a single individual person itself. But later, let's say that I've moved into some different organization like Wipro and all. So where I've been only working on build basis. There is a separate person who will define PDDs, give SDDs. I'm only reading those documents, connecting with them to understand the requirements, do the development. Even there is a separate testing team. If there are any bugs, they'll route back again to me. I'm only doing the development here. Right. So it really depends what is the role you will be trying to experience in companies, but you should be knowing what is done before the development and what is done after the development too. So that is where your profile gets more value rather than saying I'm a developer, I'm only there in the build phase. So you should be having a knowledge what is done before automation and what is done after the automations too. Okay. So what are the system requirements for running this UiPath in the local? So which we will discuss going forward. So let's try to understand only in terms of RPA perspective rather than understanding in the UiPath perspective. See, UiPath is there in picture in the RPA space itself. Fine. So let's try to have a walkthrough. It might take an extra 5 or 10 minutes, but what we are trying to speak here, we will try to just understand in the documents. So this is what we call as initial process analysis and all, right? So this is the document which will try to help you out in understanding how the feasibility checklist happens, how the process analysis happens. So as I was saying that how they will try to assess whether the process can be automated. So I'll also upload these documents in the drive where you can have a walkthrough. So before that, I'll take some 2 or 3 components to explain. So first thing is called as the business process definition. So what is this business process definition? What is this rating? What is this impacted area and all, right? So let's say that I'm trying to automate 5 processes. If all the 5 processes have a detailed documenting things with the descriptions and all, then we call it as a rating of 1. Right? We are trying to automate 5 processes, and the particular client says that you have all the 5 processes, documentations, nothing but SOP, standard operating procedures. So then we can rate it as 1. If the client says that out of 5 processes, you have documentation for only 3 processes. So for other 2 processes, we don't have any documentation. So it will be a bit hard. So then we'll try to rate it as 2. So nothing but bit difficult to automate. So if the client says that we don't have any documentation, we have all the information in our particular minds, we do it on a daily basis. So we know that processes from last 5 to 10 years. So then we gonna rate that as 3. So 3 is like, it's like highly impossible because like you can't get every keystroke level information from them, which have been there for them for like 5 to 10 years. So it's very difficult to automate. So 1 is easy, 2 bit difficult, 3 we are not. It's something like blocker for us to go ahead with the automations. So second thing is subject matter expert, what we call as let's say that I'm trying to automate a banking domain processes. So if a same person comes from the banking domain, yes, it's easy to automate. So let's say that there is a different person coming from the healthcare domain to support a banking domain process. It will take some time, but it's difficult, but sure we can achieve the task. So 3 is nothing but, so he is from a different, there is no business analyst at all. Every time you need to connect with the client and all. So it's a bit difficult task for you to automate the things. Right? So host application technology. So what are the types of applications you are trying to interact, whether it's Java-based applications or else it's a .NET, it's a what type of applications. So if it is something like Java or else .NET, we gonna rate it as 1. And if it is something SAP mainframe, we gonna rate it as 2. If it is a Citrix-based applications, so we gonna rate it as 3. So what is the Citrix-based applications? So we have a keyword called as thin clients and thick clients. So thin clients, thick clients. So what is a thick client? So if you are trying to automate an application and the automation tool, nothing but your path resides in the same environment. So that is called as a thick client. So you're trying to automate an application which resides in the client environment and your application automation tool resides in your environment. It's called as thin client. Everything to us will be considered as an image. It is not the best suit for the automations. Right. Excuse me.
Please repeat one more time. Second thing.
Sorry. Somebody asking a doubt. I think we okay. Right. And what is this process complexity? Again, the process complexity can be defined on various factors here. It depends upon number of applications, number of like number of steps in the process, number of applications involved, number of screens involved, number of steps in the particular process, as well as average handling time. Right. So based on these things, we gonna rate it as 1, 2, and 3, simple, medium, and complex. So these were the different factors. You can also have a walkthrough on these particular things, how I'm rating it as 1 and 2 and 3. All right. Fine. So this is what we call as initial feasibility checklist or else initial process analysis document. And I'll have a walkthrough, explain Citrix automation again. Yes, Citrix is something, let's say that I have a UiPath tool. Let's try to understand the environment here. So let's say that I'm trying to automate some application here. Let's say that this is an application. Okay. I'm trying to automate this application. So your path is also in my environment, nothing but in the same system. I have my tool as well as application can be interacted. Okay. So it is what we call as a thick client. So thin client is nothing but, so though there is something called as a client environment. So let's say that client environment resides in RDBs, nothing but virtual desktops. So this is where the application resides. And in my personal environment, so in my local system, I have UiPath. So when I'm trying to interact the application which is there in the virtual desktops or remote desktop applications. So here we might be thinking this is a text box, or else we might be thinking this as a push button and all, or else we might be considering these as a check boxes. But everything will be considered if it is there in the thin client as an image. So here it's also an image. This is also an image. You try to do an automation. It can be an image where you're trying to click on a cancel rather than the property of a cancel push button here, right? So that is what we call as Citrix environment, or else what we can call it as a thin client. Automating thin client applications is a big challenge because you're trying to consider everything as an image. If there is a small change in the screen resolution or else the font or else in the color, which might be resulting in failure of your particular bot. The maintenance is a bit more costlier when compared to normal automations being maintained. Okay. Hope I have answered your question. Thick client and thin client as well as Citrix system requirements, which we said we are going to discuss earlier going forward. So I'll show last document and I will just wind up the session as of today. So we have something called as a PDD document, which we call as process definition document. So here we have all the things related, like when the date was issued. So who is the person who has created this particular document, who has reviewed, who has provided the information, who has provided sign up and all these things. All this information is required to make sure that we have a proper PDD in place. Right. So let's try to understand what are the contents we'll try to see in the PDD. So we have a walkthrough of manual process description. What is the process actually? What are the applications involved? What is the process and what is the process at a very keystroke level with the exceptions. Right. So let's try to understand this document, which will take roughly another 5 minutes and we'll wind up the questions session with the Q&A. Right. So let's try to understand the process here. So the process is something where you will try to raise a request for your travel. So let's say that I want to travel from Hyderabad to Bangalore or else like Hyderabad to Mumbai for like 5 days. I want to raise a request like how much is going to cost me for this particular vacation. So whenever you raise a request on a daily basis, 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., a person who's sitting in a company will download all these requests and they'll try to process and they'll try to send a request in terms of the mail back to the customer. So that is the process. The process is to handle the request for your vacation and how much it is going to be charged. And the persons are trying to create a quotation and send back a mail to the customers. So that is the process. So what are the applications utilized? They are trying to utilize Excel because after downloading, all the data will be there in Excel. And the BP Travel is an application where we'll try to generate the quotations and all. And finally, an email system to send a mail back to the customers. So these were the 3 target systems that is being utilized in your particular process. So impacted business area. So impacted business area is nothing but, so there might be different verticals in every sort of process. So let's try to consider Amazon process. So where you will try to create an order, that is one entity, where you will try to track your order, that is another entity, where you will try to raise a request for your returns or refunds, there is another entity. So nothing but in the same business, you will have different verticals. So if you're trying to automate this particular process, nothing but create quotations and all, what is the impact that is happening in your business? So the operation team that currently performs the process manually needs to engineer the process to support only exceptions and that cannot be processed. So instead of all the 10 persons working on the particular company, they'll be not working on the same process. They will try to support only 2 to 3 people, which the bot cannot process. So that is what the impact that's happening in the business, right? So nothing but what is the vertical or else what is the thing that is going to impact. Process diagram at a very high level. So start, they'll try to download, nothing the team leader will download and the team leader will assign all these cases to the each person's. The case handler, nothing but each person will try to log into the BP travel application, get the next code from the report. So where they'll try to read all the data, they'll try to navigate, they'll try to create. If the quotation is created, they'll update in the report and they'll write email. So if the quotation is not created, they'll contact customer care to resolve. And if the same process is repeated. So if there are more applications, they'll try to repeat the same work. If there are no applications, they'll try to exit BP travel and end the process. So this is what a very high level process diagram will look like. But in real time, this is a very simple process. But this might be a bit complex in understanding it in a real time and all. It really depends upon how many steps you're trying to interact in a particular process. That is what the process diagram will look like. And last but not least, this is what we are talking in the PDD. a very keystroke level information, right? So once you download, this is how your Excel will look like with request date, title, first name, last name, contact number, from where to where he's trying to travel, what are the departure, return dates, and how many adults and childs are there, right? This is all the data you're trying to see in Excel. So once you download, what happens? He or she will try to log in into this particular application. So once they log in, this is the application, how it looks like. As we discussed, they'll try to forward all the screenshots to the applications too, with all the keystroke level. So enter your username, enter your password, click on login button. This is where you will try to log in, right? So once you try to log in, click on search. So once you click on search, navigate to the create code screen. So this is where you need to enter all your details from your Excel, where you need to click on create code, where all your data will be there. So you need to update this particular reference quotation number as well as the price. And you need to send a mail back to the customer in this particular format. Right. So and finally, you are trying to, if there are some issues, you're trying to support the customer care. And finally, you are trying to exit the people travel application. This is how the process happens, right? With you have all the keystroke level information with what you need to do, what are the what is the information you need to capture, what information you need to mail, everything will be documented in this PDD now. Right. So exceptions. Now we are talking about the business exceptions. Exceptions are nothing but deviation from the actual behavior of your particular process. So let's say that for creating a quotation, you need your uh, let's say that source and destination. I want to travel from Hyderabad to Mumbai. If you're not providing that Hyderabad or Mumbai, so can you create a quote? Of course not. You have provided all the details, but you haven't provided on which date you're trying to travel. Can I provide a quotation? Of course not. You have provided all the details, but you haven't provided how many persons are actually traveling. Can I create a code? Of course not. You have provided all the details, but I haven't provided like how many children or how many adults are actually traveling. Can I create a code? Of course not. So this is what we call as a business exceptions. So deviation from the actual behavior of your particular process is called a business exceptions. So all the exceptions related to a particular process, which might happen, can also be there. Insufficient seats available on the particular date. I cannot create. So invalid date or times. Pricing information unavailable. Incompatible flight origin and destination details. All these factors will help me out not to create a ticket here. So that is what we call as a business exceptions. So all these things are also handled here in this particular document, right? So this is what we try to create, and we will try to send this document for an approval to a business where they'll try to say that, hey, this is the process which you're going to automate. Can you provide a sign off? Yes, they'll provide a sign off, and then they'll try to go with the things. Right. So that is what happens in the PDD, and the rest of the documents we'll try to discuss going forward. But so these documents will act as a foundation for your development. Right. So could you share the PDD documents? Yes, we'll share the PDD documents. Sir, what's the difference between Citrix and SAP automation? Citrix, again, it's an image-based automation. SAP automation, it happens with the activities in your UiPath itself. You can handle those things. Automating SAP is called as SAP automation, where you have capabilities in UiPath itself. So can you please share the drive link as well as the WhatsApp group link as well if available? Yes, a WhatsApp link I'll share. So we'll share the WhatsApp link. Okay, so can you share the drive link? Yes, you can see it in our particular WhatsApp group. After the session closes, we'll share the recording as well as the materials used, where you can just try to leverage those things too. Right. Any other doubts as of now? You can ask us, or else I think we are just good to close our particular meeting. Maybe I'll just share the invite link. Just give me 1 minute. So who will hold the PDD? So basically, the business analyst or the SME is the key stakeholder of this particular PDD. And basically, our particular development, I'm like the client which we are going to service the PDD is what owner of the PDD. So what is the difference between PDD and STD? So PDD is where you will try to store all the information related to the process. So STD is something where you will try to have the design specifications basically. How we are trying to develop the code and all. That is what we try to create in the STDs. Going forward, we'll try to share the STDs also. We'll have walkthrough on the STDs. Considering the time constraint, I've just shown you only the PDD. Right. So somebody asked the group link, right?
So initially you have shown document, right? So before this PDD, so what is all about that document?
Sorry, 1 minute.
Hello,
Sorry.
am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Yes, Vignesh.
So yeah, so initially you have shown one document, right? Before this PDD. So what is that document is all about?
It's all about initial process analysis or initial feasibility checklist. It is something related to your first phase, nothing with the process management or the discovery phase, where we are trying to assess whether process can be automated or not, right? So we are considering all the
Okay.
factors. If we are having the business process definitions or SMEs there, we have a test data, we have what type of target systems we are trying to automate, we have a proper hardware availability and all those things.
Okay. So who and all involved in that checklist analysis, like SME, BA, and who else?
It's a business analyst and the project manager.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah. And based on the availability, the developer might also be involved. It depends. As I was saying, like in my previous organizations, I was only the key stakeholder for all these things and all. But when I was working with other organizations, I was only doing the development. It purely depends. But when we're talking about ideal situations, it is something the project manager as well as the business analyst. So TDD is nothing but technical
thank
design
you.
document, which is similar to SDD, what we are trying to refer, a solution design document. So all the technical related stuff, technical design considerations will be considered in the TDD or STD, which we will try to show it going forward. Okay.
So is that STD and PDD are moreover similar, or it's entirely different? Because they are also design document in the sense that the process will be discussed, right?
Yes, yes. Based on PDD only, we'll try to define the SDDs or TDDs. So PDD, nothing but process definition document, or BRD, nothing but business requirement documents. We'll try to cater all the information related to the process. Okay. So TDD, nothing but technical design documents, or SDD, nothing but solution design document, or DSD, design specification document. All will try to capture the design level specifications, whether we are trying to utilize orchestrator, whether we are trying to utilize the RE framework, whether we are going to utilize different components related to document understanding. So all these things will be captured in the TDD, SDD, or DSD. So all these naming conventions might be different from company to company, but our end goal is to capture the technical sort of information which helps our solution to design. Okay.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Right. SOP is same as SDD. SOP is something that happens on the client level. It's what we call as standard operating procedures. So if you're trying to have some KYC process, the particular client, the Citibank or HDFC Bank also try to document something, right? So that is what we call as SOP. Similar SDD, so instead of automating all the things in the SOP, we'll try to take a piece of the SOP and try to. So that is what we call as a process. No sir, please, you can call Kiran. Anybody in the call can call me Kiran. What is unit testing in UAT? So unit testing happens in our particular environment. Nothing but let's say that ABC company is trying to automate the process. So you're working with the company ABC, right? Your team is going to automate that particular, sorry, your team is going to test that particular things. So UAT is nothing but, let's say that I'm trying to automate a process for Citibank. So somebody from Citibank operating team will come into this particular UAT, nothing but user acceptance test, and they will try to test end-to-end scenarios. Unit testing is nothing but you're trying to test a piece of code in your particular development phase itself. So they'll try to build some confidence before moving that into production, right? So that sort of confidence can achieve only when you try to deliver some good results in the UAT. Fine. Any other doubts? We'll take questions for next 1 minute. It's already we have passed.
Thank you,
For
Dan.
how long you get it done? It depends. Like companies usually do it for 3 weeks.
Hello. Yeah, I do
Yes,
have one
please.
question. Will you share that particular document you earlier shown to us, like the travel something
Yes,
automation?
we'll share. So whatever I'm trying to show in the session, whatever I'm trying to write, you will definitely have all the documents in the WhatsApp.
Okay, thank you.
How is effort estimation done? Effort estimation is done based on the process complexity. Again, the process complexity depends upon a number of steps, number of applications involved, number of screens involved in applications, number of fields related to the screens, as well as the average handling time. So these were the 5 factors which will tell you whether it's simple, medium, or complex. Simple process, it's going to take you around like 3 to 4 weeks. Medium complex, 4 to 8 weeks. Complex process, 8 to 12 weeks. This is how the estimation is done at a high level. Any other questions?
Could you
Yeah.
please repeat the estimation? Simple, complex, and what are the time frames?
So time frame it takes around like 4 to 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, and 12 to sorry, it's 4 to 8 weeks and 8 to 10 weeks and some 10 to 12 weeks. It really depends again, organization to organization. So nothing but one month, 1.5 month, 2 months, and 2 to 3 months. Hope we are clear. Yeah, we'll just wind up the session. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for the patience.
Yeah, thanks, Kiran. Great
Thank you.
session. Thank you.
Bye. We'll share all the documents in the group. If somebody is still not able to join, you can just use this group and you can just join. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.